And if you want to do something creative, like animation, then go for it. This presentation is about Chapter 8 and how to read literature like a professor for kids. Chapter 8, Hansel D and Gretel Dumb. This chapter is about how both fairy tales and folklore are big inspirations for many stories. As stated before in a previous chapter, stories grow out of other stories. Writers can use other works to make their own. They can add or leave out whatever parts they want. They can change the setting, the characters, the ending, the perspective, and they can create their own piece of literature just by using another. Think about this. We can see the similarities and differences between the Cinderella story we know and its many variations that were written or made into a movie all over the world. Take the movie Into the Woods as an example. The movie uses the original Cinderella story but changes the events and details to match the rest of the movie. In the original, Cinderella's wish to go to the ball is granted by her fairy godmother. In the movie, Cinderella's wish to go to the festival, comes true when she makes that wish at their mother's willow tree. Same desires, different ways it happens. What about the shoe? The original Cinderella loses one of her shoes on the steps of the palace while running away.
But how though? Because, it's supposed to be a perfect fit.
The prince then uses that shoe to find the beautiful young woman he danced with that night.
Is she literally the only one with a foot that size?
Go away! In the movie, however, Cinderella succeeds in running away from the festival before midnight. The festival, unlike the ball, lasts for more than one night, and after movie Cinderella has escaped him again and again, the prince decides to spread tar on the steps to catch her. She escapes by taking her feet out of the shoes, leaving the prince with the shoes to find her. Again, the same event happens, but in different ways. Even the details can change. I told you to go away, but yes, you're correct. The Disney Cinderella slipper is clear, while the Into the Woods slipper is golden yellow.
Their dresses are different colors too.
Yeah, now go away. This is my presentation.
Fine.
Show off. Okay then, what about endings? In most Cinderella stories, Cinderella gets a happily ever after. Cinderella in Into the Woods, however, realizes that her Prince Charming cheated on her, so they part ways. This is just one example of how fairy tales have inspired other stories. We've all heard of the Three Little Pigs, right? Well, one variation is in the wolf's perspective. In that story, the wolf claims he was only asking the pigs for sugar to make his grandmother a cake. He says their houses were blown down because he sneezed. It's a new story made from the original, just by changing the perspective. As you can see, fairy tales are a good source for other pieces of literature. Near the end of the chapter, we're told that a good story mixes between something new and something familiar. As said in the chapter, it creates a harmony. Let's look at Into the Woods again. All the fairy tale characters are familiar to us, but the director of the movie made a brand new story for us to enjoy. Stories are like the trunks of trees. The trunks provide the branches and seeds with water and nutrients. In this case, the trunk is made up of fairy tales and folklore, and it's providing the branches, or writers, with inspiration and ideas. The writers then create their own seeds, stories, which fall to the ground and grow into more trees, providing their own inspiration for writers all over the world. I compared stories to trees to explain the mix of new and familiarity in literature. I compared stories to trees to show that fairy tales and other stories inspire others. I compared stories to trees so that I could use Into the Woods for examples.